have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Hey, what do you say? Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, beginning of a whole new week of the Bill Press Show right here, right now, Monday, April 28th. So good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. President Obama going from Japan to South Korea to Malaysia. Now, today he arrives in the Philippines for the 4th leg of his Asian tour, visiting one of our strongest U.S. allies in the region and meeting with President Aquino of the Philippines. Vice President Biden here in Washington will attend meetings at the White House this morning, gives a big speech on the economy at George Washington University this afternoon. Well, rancher Cliven Bundy out of Nevada is not the only racist out there. He's got company this morning. L.A. Clippers owner Donald Sterling, who was heard on audio tape, allegedly berating his girlfriend for hanging out with black players and posting a photo of herself with Magic Johnson on Instagram. The NBA is investigating whether or not that voice is really his. If it proves out to be Donald Sterling indeed, then what will the players do? What will the NBA do? Will they boot him out? And you need a miracle? Well, maybe you have a little help today, because we have two new saints, a good one and a bad one. The good one, Saint Pope John the 23rd, who brought us the great reforms of Vatican II. The bad one, Saint Pope John Paul II, who tried to crush those reforms and did nothing at all about the priest sexual abuse scandal. But both of them now are saints of the Catholic Church as of Saturday, when Pope Francis inducted them both into sainthood, if you will. So all of that to talk about. You know how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama to the Philippines today. 4th stop in his Asian tour. Good morning, everybody. And we are still here in Washington, D.C., waiting to welcome him home. And we welcome all of you today to this Monday edition of the Bill Press Show. Here we go. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, this Monday morning, April 28th. And bringing you the news of the day, what's happening here in our nation's capital. Not much. What's happening out west, California? Donald Sterling from the Clippers, the latest, caught making racist remarks on audio tape, or was it really his voice? And as we said, President Obama, news from around the world as well, with President Obama arriving in the Philippines, and situation still pretty tense in the Ukraine, and now the administration is debating whether or not to go ahead with sanctions unilaterally, because it looks like Europe is never going to agree to do that because they depend too much on the natural gas from Russia. So there's all kinds of stuff happening all around the planet. They've even expanded now the search area for Malaysian Flight 370.
That's a blast from the past.
Boy, as if they think they're ever going to find it. I mean, shouldn't they realize right now it is gone into outer space at any rate. Hope you had a good weekend, ready to tackle the news of the day today. And how to do it, give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Join us on Twitter. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show. Easy as that, at BP Show. On Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go. Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Look who's here.
Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning.
Right, you found your way back in. Have a good weekend. Everything good?
Indeed, yeah.
Gorgeous weekend.
Beautiful. Went saw Nats game and the nice weather.
Oh, you did yesterday?
I saw it Saturday when they won.
When they won.
See,
yeah, right.
I'm the good luck.
Yeah.
You're the bad luck.
I didn't go to the game yesterday. They still lost. We were thinking about going, and we didn't. And when they lost, I said to Carol, "It's a good thing we didn't go because everybody would have blamed it on."
We took a long bike ride down to Mount Vernon, which was beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the weather was phenomenal.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's a great path down there. Alicia Cruz here. Got the phones standing by to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding, who is doing the Wizards proud with his Wizards jacket this morning.
We got it. Represent.
Show off.
House of Zards. The House of Zards.
Yeah, and the Wizards coming up 3-1. 3 games to 1 now. 3 games to 1 now. Sorry, Chicago, but they're back in Chicago tomorrow night.
Yep.
Where they could pull it away, or the Bulls
it down,
or the Bulls might pull up.
Shut it down tomorrow night.
See what happens. How about it? Well, a lot of attention, of course, to still a lot of noise about Cliven Bundy, the Nevada rancher. Even more noise today about Donald Sterling, the Clippers owner. Meantime, the NRA was having its big convention. Didn't get that much press this year, which is good. But the normal crazies showed up, right? First of all, let's start with Rick Santorum. I mean, Rick Santorum is so hungry to be president of the United States. He will prostitute himself in front of any audience you give him. So he goes in front of the NRA and he's talking about giving gifts to your wife for Mother's Day. Of course, you know what he would do.
The default gift for most men is to buy flowers on a special occasion. For me, the safe bet, ammo. Right? Come on, right?
Yeah.
Come on, right?
That. Come on. You're supposed to applaud for that line.
Right?
Come on, right? You know that. You're supposed. By the way, I'd like to know how many times he has bought his wife a box of ammo for Mother's Day.
Let me tell you something.
I mean, seriously.
Gentlemen listening, if you go buy your wife or your mother a box of ammo for Mother's Day, I don't feel sorry for whatever happens next to you, because I don't think it will be very appreciated.
No, right. And I mean, also there was Sarah Palin, who was, again, desperate. You pay her enough money, she'll say anything in front of any crowd. She got paid a lot of money for coming to the NRA and sucking up to them. She sounds like Dick Cheney endorsing waterboarding.
If I were in charge...
Oh, God. Oh, God. Yeah, lady, you had your chance to be in charge. That'll never happen.
They would know that waterboarding is how we baptize terrorists.
You know, God. I mean, just go away. Just go away.
Have you ever seen anybody milk the whole speculation over whether or not they're running for president more than she has?
Well, she's not going to because she knows she would be humiliated. And by the way, if I were in charge, you were in charge, lady, and you quit.
That's right.
After a year and a half because you couldn't stand the pressure, beauty queen. Oh, man. Coming up, we've got reporters in from the National Journal, from The Hill, from The Root, and comedian Louis Black. How about that? For a change of pace, will be joining us a little bit later in the program as well. And yes, racism rears its ugly head again out in California. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Last year, we saw Man of Steel, the DC comic the movie based on the DC comic Superman. Next, we have Batman versus Superman, in which Ben Affleck is going to be playing Batman. And the Wall Street Journal reports exclusively that the next movie is going to be the Justice League. It's going to feature all of the DC Justice League characters. They expect Henry Cavill will be back as Superman and Ben Affleck back as Batman. And it will be directed by Zack Snyder, who directed Man of Steel and is directing Batman vs. Superman.
Yeah.
Comic book movie on the horizon.
And I know you are big on comic book movies. So
yes.
You got to line them up.
I saw Man of Steel, by the way. I didn't like it at all.
Oh, really?
No, not at all. But I will.
Good, then I won't go.
That's what you needed to hear, huh? A restaurant in South Africa is only making the problem worse. If you go there to this restaurant, they are advertising a very special section of the restaurant with special lighting and better staging so that you can take better pictures of your food.
Oh, there you go.
When it comes out, they say they know that people are going to be taking pictures of food when you're eating.
Yeah.
So they're going to make the lighting better for the plate so that you can take out your phone and snap a picture. Are you pulling up pictures of your food?
No, that reminds me. I told you I went to this great restaurant called Corduroy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did take a picture of my chicken.
Your chicken.
What are you doing? You're part of the problem.
We'll have to tweet this out.
And by the way,
it's a good looking photo. But you can tell it's a little dark, right?
No. By the way, I was not happy because it was a little dark there to take a photo.
If you only had better
lighting. You cannot
lighting.
appreciate how good that chicken was, or looks even, from that photo.
So you got to go to South Africa, apparently.
Oh, all right.
To get better lighting. And I'm sorry, ladies, I have some very, very sad news to report. Perhaps the most eligible bachelor in the world has announced he is engaged. George Clooney
I knew you were right.
Off the market.
Is off the market. He is engaged to lawyer Amal Alamuddin. They've been dating for 7 months. Clooney very famously said because he was married once back in the 80s, and after that ended in divorce, he said, I'll never get married again. I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah.
She's a global rights lawyer, I think, right?
Yes, that's right. So there you go.
All right.
Sorry, ladies.
So much for all the rumors about his being gay. All right.
I didn't hear those.
Oh, God. Yeah, I heard a rumor over the weekend that Putin is gay.
That I actually believe. That I can see.
Go figure. Right. Well, I got to tell you, it is. You know what? Here's the. Let's look at the bright side of this. Right. Cliven Bundy has a big smile on his face today. All right. That Nevada racist rancher. Right. He's got a big smile on his face because he's not alone. He's got company. L.A. Clippers owner Donald Sterling. Unless you were on another planet over the weekend, you heard all about this. I don't know how you could have missed it. It's been a great big deal. Somebody gave an audio tape to the great site TMZ, by the way. They break all kinds of...
They really do.
Yeah. I knew Harvey when I was on TV in L.A.
That's right.
He was at Channel 4. I was at Channel 7. He's always been a real aggressive reporter. He's found this website TMZ. And they got all kinds of great stuff. Somebody gave them
get past them.
This, and everything they've broken has been true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all over the Michael Jackson stuff a long time ago. At any rate, they've got this audio tape in which Sterling, allegedly, we have to say for now, although really not, he's talking to a former girlfriend, V. Stiviano, and he berates her on this audio, berates her for the fact that she hangs out with black players. She's half Asian, half African American, I think. She hangs out with black players, and she put a photo of her with Michael Jordan?
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson, right. Magic Johnson on her Instagram. And he just doesn't like this, doesn't like that she's hanging out with these black players, and especially doesn't like that she brings them around to the games. Whatever you do, don't bring them to the games, he says. So Sterling wants to know on this audio tape, here it is, why do you do this?
Nobody said you did anything wrong. I don't do anything wrong. If we ever have any issues, it's because people call you and tell you things about me that are not true. Why are you broadcasting? I'm not broadcasting anything. Taking pictures with minorities. Why?
Why?
Jeez.
Why are you taking pictures with minority? Yeah, first of all, a guy with a voice like that, how could you ever date a guy with a voice like that?
That's true.
Again, he keeps asking, why? And he said, this really does matter.
You're perceived as either a Latina or a white girl. Why should you be walking publicly with black people? Why? Is there a benefit to you? Is it a benefit to me? Does it matter if they're white or blue or yellow? I guess that you don't know that. Maybe you're stupid. Maybe you don't know what people think of you. It does matter, yeah. It matters.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter, right? And why does he think that people think less of her because she's, hanging out with a black player? And finally, he just says again, don't bring them to games. Why do you want to bring them to my games?
Well, they're not in public. But why publicize it on the Instagram and why bring it to my games? Why bring the black people to the games?
Yeah, she can't believe that he would say something like that. Well, this audio tape is out there, and it has created a firestorm. The NBA, under their new leader, Adam Silver, says it's conducting an investigation. By the way, the NBA is basically, it's the most diverse, right, of the professional sports by far.
Oh, yeah. The Clippers alone, 4 of their 5 starters are black.
Yeah.
Their head coach is black.
Yeah. That's a thing for a guy like Clippers, Sterling, to even be involved in this professional sport professionally doesn't add up, right? Because of, look, even have I forget his name now, an openly gay player.
Jason Collins.
Jason Collins, right. And I think it was Magic Johnson who said that this is a black league, basically, Right.
Yeah.
So for him to say this is just, it's so outrageous, number one, so racist, but it also just doesn't fit. So back, the NBA is doing an investigation to make sure, to find out if the voice on the tape is really that of Donald Sterling, because Sterling says it's not. It's not what he believes, and that he never said that. Yeah, I want to know where the tape came from. And I don't care who leaked the tape. If he said it, he's got to be held responsible. So the NBA is doing an investigation. Here's a question to you, 866-55-PRESS. You tell me what you think. If it turns out that it really is Sterling's voice, what should the players do? And the players, with the help of Kevin Johnson, mayor of Sacramento, former Phoenix star, are looking into this as well. What should the players do? And what should the NBA do? I got to tell you what I think. I think the players should say, we're not going to play for this guy anymore. We will not play on one more game. There's even a question whether they should have played yesterday. But of course, they got their ass whooped yesterday by the Warriors. And they did make a statement. They wore their shirts inside out. They wore black armbands. But if it really proves that it is Sterling, and I think it is, then what should they? I think they should refuse to play one more game as long as that guy's their owner. And I think the NBA ought to throw his ass out of the league. I just say, shut them down. He's got to sell the team.
I agree with you on the NBA part. I think that the NBA has got to be very clear and say, look, we have no room for this type of owner.
Cannot condone it.
And that's just all there is to it.
Yeah.
As for the players, I'm really torn because I know where you're coming from. I know that they represent the Clippers. Like it or not, they represent the Clippers. But this team has made it to the playoffs. They're in a very tight series, and I think for them to not play means that they rob themselves of a chance at glory here. They're playing for themselves, not for Donald Trump.
I hear that, and that's what their coach has said. You know, we have our dream, and we're close to getting to our dream. If we want anything to interfere with our dream, you know, maybe all the players in the NBA ought to refuse to play. Just stop the playoffs.
Exactly.
Stop the playoffs as long as this guy is in their crowd, in their midst. Yeah, I know. So they have to take, I think, the strongest possible action against this clown, the Clippers named Donald Sterling. Tell me what you think. 866-55-PRESS. It is the big, hot issue of the day. Racist comments by Donald Sterling, head of the Clippers. Allegedly. Yeah, allegedly. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, you know, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
ignorant folks want to advertise their ignorance, you don't really have to do anything. You just let them talk, and that's what happened here.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Halfway around the world, President Obama weighing in, condemning Donald Sterling's remarks yesterday at a news conference in Malaysia. Magic Johnson said he should sell the team. LeBron James, no room in the NBA for those kind of comments. I mean, the reaction has been pretty swift and across the board.
Yeah.
And pretty strong. Again, we'll see what the audio tape shows. Yeah, look, it's in fact his wife says that the girlfriend just released this audio tape because that he had dumped her and she wanted to get even with him. Yeah. So, but sounds like Sterling to me. Peter, comments?
We're on Twitter at BP Show, getting your comments on this. Mama for Obama weighing in on this. She says the players have a contract to fulfill. The pressure should be placed on the NBA owners to kick Sterling out of his ownership. Mm-hmm. We also got a comment from B. Hall asking why was the NAACP going to honor Sterling, which they were. They have announced that they're taking that away.
Yeah,
but he does have a history, which we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, he has a history of some housing discrimination against blacks, Latinos, whatever, and paid a huge fine for that. Yeah, when I read that he was slated to be honored at the NAACP Los Angeles chapter, the next month or something. Yeah, why? Probably only because of his clout in the community as owner of the Clippers. Gives him a lot of clout, but that was a big mistake from the beginning.
One final comment from Twitter at BP Show. Jessica says maybe Sterling should have bought a hockey team.
Well, we won't have time for your calls right now. We'll get to your calls when we come back at 866-55-PRESS. What should the players do? What should
is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely. Like and you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about your next venture.
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. the world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is 33 minutes after the hour on a Monday morning, Monday, April 28th. You're watching The Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. Put them all together. Sheet metal, air, rail, and transportation workers, and you get the SMART Union for sure, under President Joseph Nigro. Find out more about their good work at their website, smart-union.org. And we're talking about the big controversy over outright racist remarks made by the LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling on an audio tape, where there's an investigation going underway to make sure it is his voice on the audio tape. Meanwhile, the players and the NBA itself, who are conducting that investigation, many have already spoken out to condemn Sterling's remarks, including Sacramento Mayor Kevin Johnson, former NBR star, of course, who has been called on by the Players Union to help them decide how they should handle this. For the time being, Kevin Johnson says, here's one thing we can do.
The players wanted to ensure that Mr. Sterling does not attend any games for the Clippers or any other team for the duration of the playoffs.
And in fact, Sterling was not there yesterday in Oakland, although his wife was.
Yeah.
Why? Right? Anyhow. But that's just sort of an initial reaction. And again, we saw what the Clippers players did yesterday. They took the warm-up jackets off. They had their shirts on inside out, so you couldn't see the name Clippers. And then they wore black armbands as a way of saying, we know what's going on and we don't like it, but we're still going to play ball.
I mean, everybody has at some point in their life had a really terrible boss, right? And this is essentially they're working for a really, really terrible boss. And so he's put them in such a terrible position. Here they are. They had a great season.
Yeah.
Regular season. They're in the playoffs. They're neck and neck with a tough team. They got a chance to move forward, right? Yesterday, huge game. And what happens?
Right.
They played like garbage yesterday.
I know. Now, you can see they were really dispirited yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Couldn't take it away, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's no two ways about it. When you are, I can't imagine what that's going to be like, right? Like I said, 4 out of the 5 starters on the Clippers are black guys, and your owner, your boss, doesn't want people that look like you to be seen and affiliated with him and his team. Now, how does that make you feel? That's terrible.
Yeah, right. No, and again, I mean, why should, Mama for Obama's right. They do have a contract, but I don't think the Clippers would dare sue them if they just sit down and say, we're not going to play. We're not going to play for somebody with that kind of an attitude. I mean, I'm an African American. I'm on this guy's team, and he's not out there saying that I ought to be back as a slave picking cotton.
Right.
But he is saying that his girlfriend shouldn't hang out with people like me, and they shouldn't bring people like me to the games. I mean,
it's crazy.
Has Sterling ever looked at the audience, the people who go in L.A. to basketball games?
Right.
It's just because L.A. is such a diverse city.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And
look at the people in the stands. What do you mean don't bring a black person to the game?
I mean, from a business standpoint, right? Like this could, if you're a black person and you are a Clippers fan, I can't imagine why you would pay money to go to the game, right? And let's hit Sterling where it really hurts and not go to the games. That's where he makes his money, is people paying for tickets and concessions.
Actually, that's a good point. There are really three levels here. What should the players do? What should the owners do, the NBA? And what should the fans do? And there's no doubt.
I wouldn't go.
The fans stay home. I wouldn't go. If this were here in town, I wouldn't go to the team. The fans stay home. If the players refuse to play, and the NBA, I don't know what power they have over ownership. I mean, they can't take it away from him. Can they force him to sell it?
Well, if it's complicated. My understanding is we'll talk about a little bit more with
Travis Waldren, I should mention, is coming in the next hour to talk
who knows
about
a lot
this.
more about this than I do. But it's a matter of how the other owners feel about him, right? So the other owners could vote to sort of punish him and penalize him. But I don't think that I don't think that the NBA could just say, you have to sell your team, right?
I think what they could do is disenfranchise him.
Yes.
Saying you are no longer part of the NBA. Your team, as long as you are the owner, is no longer part of the NBA. I'm pretty sure they could do that.
You know what they...
And if they don't do something, I mean, the Reverend Al Sharpton with the National Action Network is out today. I was on the show Friday night before this broke. But he's out over the weekend saying that they're ready to stage a big protest at the NBA headquarters unless they take some immediate action. But, of course, Silver has said, and I understand that, we want to make sure that this is indeed his voice on the tape. I don't think there's any doubt, but they want to be absolutely sure. Then they promise swift action.
Yeah. The only other case that I see similarities between this is the Marge Schott case with the Cincinnati Reds several years ago, in which she said that Hitler had a couple of good ideas, he just took them too far. Major League Baseball suspended her from running the team, which they can do. That way the team and the players carry on and they continue to do their thing and fulfill their contracts. But he, as an owner, would just be hands off, not showing up for work, and he would be punished that way.
866-55-PRESS, the toll-free number. The other thing that gets me is, well, first of all, one other big question is how soon, I can't wait till tonight, because it's clear that Sean Hannity tonight will make Donald Sterling his latest folk hero. I mean, I haven't been watching the Fox that much of Fox this morning, but are they promoting Donald Sterling? I mean, the
hero.
What the hell, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Duck Dynasty guy was their hero. George Zimmerman was their hero.
Right. Cliven Bundy.
Cliven Bundy was a hero. Now they have a new folk hero. For sure they're going to come on. They're going to take the side of Donald Sterling. Right. Roger Ailes and Sean Hannity and all the rest of them. So that's for sure. But it's just, should we be shocked? Should we be shocked that somebody, A, has these views today, and B, expresses them so openly? I am, but I guess maybe we should not be. And the president was sort of philosophical about that yesterday, at least if we have that first statement on the part of the president at his news conference yesterday where, he said, made the point, I guess, that the fact that there's so much outrage about it indicates that it's so unusual today, and that in itself we could take some comfort at.
I think that we just have to be clear and steady in denouncing it, teaching our children differently, but also remaining hopeful that part of part of why some statements like this stand out so much is because there have been a shift. There has been this shift in how we view ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that point. I would have been happier, I think, if the president had a little more outrage.
Yeah. And it's also not to normalize some of the thoughts that Cliven Bundy had, right? But Cliven Bundy lives on his ranch. I don't think he's the type of guy that has had a lot of experiences with people of color. This is probably stuff he's been told forever and ever. And so this is just his view that he's held on to, right? And it's as screwed up as it is.
No, that's right. He's some wacko extremist rancher, nutcase who lives out in the
middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere exactly. Right.
Donald Sterling owns an NBA team
in Los Angeles, California.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh, no, that's right.
You're not that insulated from this type of stuff when you're that guy.
Right.
You live face-to-face with African Americans. You live face-to-face with people of color. You employ majority African Americans on your team. Your head coach is an African American.
Right. The only the only thing interesting about the Cliven Bundy thing is that his representative in Congress is Congressman Stephen Horsford, whom we have had in studio a couple of times. That's actually part of his district.
Yep.
And Congressman Horsford is quoted this morning as just saying that this guy in no way represents the people of even of that district. You know what? Other ranchers, I know getting on a tangent off the Sterling thing, but back to that in just a second. I saw yesterday 18,000 ranchers pay grazing fees to the BLM. And these grazing fees are $1.35 per cow per month. That's a lot of grass they're eating for pennies, right?
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. It's a subsidy, really. It's a big subsidy to these ranchers. That's all they pay. $1.35 per cow per month. I mean, so Bundy, he's like a food stamp rancher. He's on food stamps. Yeah, and he's complaining it won't pay his fees. All right, one final comment before we move on. Joe, down from Atlanta, Georgia. Hey, Joe, Sterling, what should happen?
Not much. Have you seen those sustainable environment videos? Has Bernie Sanders in it and Elizabeth Warren talking about black people being the non-productive, and they're going to replace them with the working poor.
Oh, right. No, Joe. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm sure they don't exist. All right, we'll be right back to talk to Scott Bland, editor-in-chief of the National Journal.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
church needed in this moment in history to stand alongside of these protesters. Truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
How you can help.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, 12 minutes now before the top of the hour here on the Bill Press Show. David Swartlick from The Root joins us at the top of the next hour to talk more about Cliven Bundy, and I'm sure he'll have his comments about Donald Sterling as well. Meanwhile, Washington about to get back in action this week with the House and the Senate coming back to town, I think, tomorrow. And President Obama late tomorrow night getting back from his Asian trip. Scott Bland has his eye on what's happening here in the Capitol for the National Journal Hotline, editor-in-chief, joining us on our newsline again this morning. Happy Monday morning, Scott.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. Glad to have you there. So I was curious that John Boehner, we know, at the end of last week, did this very funny, whiny kind of imitation of some of his colleagues because they don't want to take on immigration reform. Don't make us do that. It's too hard. Boehner did a better job of that than I just did. And then I saw, Scott, that Cathy McMorris Rodgers, part of the leadership, a Republican from Washington State, over the weekend said that she thinks that there will be action on immigration reform in the House by August. So with Boehner and with Cathy McMorris Rodgers, two people in the leadership, does that mean immigration reform may not be dead after all?
Well, it depends on a few things, and it's going to take this week could end up being very important in terms of shaking out exactly what that might mean, because as we've seen a number of times in the past, it matters a lot less what the leadership has to say about this than what the rank and file decides they want to do with it.
Correct. Good point.
And so, you know, depending on what the reaction of those comments among, say, the rank and file of the Republican Study Committee or you know, other conservative Republican members of the House is this week, you know, upon getting back and discussing the McMorris Rodgers interview. That's what's going to determine what happens. You know, it's very interesting. The immigration comments are what's getting a lot of the attention in terms of what McMorris Rodgers was up to this weekend. But she also made comments about how Obamacare is likely here to stay.
I was going to ask you that next. Absolutely. Which again, is that a signal from the leadership or just, you know, kind of one lone voice?
You know, it's hard to parse at this point. And it's interesting because McMorris Rodgers comes from a state where Obamacare was implemented fairly successfully. The state exchange, in contrast to what happened in Oregon to the south, has worked quite well in in Washington, and there are local considerations in play to everything that every member of Congress does. Even Eric Cantor and John Boehner are kind of aggressively campaigning right now for re-election ahead of their primaries, and so it's impossible to separate the local considerations from the national ones at this point, which is, by the way, another reason why immigration reform has seemingly been tabled for the time being, possibly until after the primary. Now, does that make it more likely that it would come up a few months before a general election? I don't know.
Yeah, but the idea that a member of the leadership would say, "Look, I admit it," and I think all of them know it privately, right? But they wouldn't admit it publicly, that Obamacare is not going to be repealed. And in her interview, Kathy McMorris Rodgers said that we're going to have to fix it from within the law, right? The structure within Obamacare,
right?
Which is what Democrats have been saying. So that could be a real turning point if if that's a little window into what the leadership is thinking.
It could potentially be a big turning point. On the other hand, it's important not to forget that forces on the outside, like Americans for Prosperity, which are the huge drivers of pro-Republican and anti-democratic outside spending this year, are still strategizing with repeal of Obamacare as their number one goal. Maybe looking forward to 2017, say, when they have the chance to inaugurate a Republican president. Now, is it even going to be possible to undo everything at that point, even more so than it is right now, when you've got millions of people who are involved in these insurance exchanges? Again, that's a pretty tough question to answer, but there are still very powerful forces working towards repeal.
That's right.
In Washington,
they've identified that as their number one issue, the issue they're going to ride through the midterms. And despite how many people have, no matter how many people have signed up or how successful the program is, they're going to continue to make that their number one issue, and we'll have to see how that plays. Scott, wanted to ask you about the president's trip too, but we are up against the clock here, so we'll leave it right there. And thank you again for joining us. Talk to you next week. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you,
Scott Bland with the National Journal Hotline, nationaljournal.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We'll talk more Cliven Bundy, more Donald Sterling in the next hour. Meanwhile, Peter?
I have some sad news to report.
no.
For those of you coming to Washington, D.C., one of the great things to see is the Dinosaur Hall at the National Museum of Natural History. Yesterday was your last chance to go.
Yeah.
They're shutting it down today for 5 years. 5 years. It's a $48 million overhaul. Again, it's going to take 5 years. But when it reopens, it's going to be a bigger hall. There's going to be more exhibits. And there's going to be the nation's T-Rex, one of the most complete T-Rex skeletons ever unearthed.
But not only that, when they reopen, they're going to have real live dinosaurs.
Well,
yeah.
By that time, in the next 5 years,
now they have some DNA. They're working in the lab. They're going to grow little dinosaurs.
Jurassic Park, Washington, D.C. style.
Carol and I walked down there yesterday. It's a huge crowd of people going in for the last day for the dinosaurs. Yeah. But they got the new T-Rex skeleton. That's going to be very exciting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't take 5 years, though. I mean, wow. Why
This
so long?
is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, what do you say? Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, beginning of a whole new week of the Bill Press Show right here, right now, Monday, April 28th. So good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. President Obama going from Japan to South Korea to Malaysia. Now, today he arrives in the Philippines for the fourth leg of his Asian tour, visiting one of our strongest U.S. allies in the region and meeting with President Aquino of the Philippines. Vice President Biden here in Washington will attend meetings at the White House this morning, gives a big speech on the economy at George Washington University this afternoon. Well, rancher Cliven Bundy out of Nevada is not the only racist out there. He's got company this morning. L.A. Clippers owner Donald Sterling, who was heard on audio tape, allegedly berating his girlfriend for hanging out with black players and posting a photo of herself with Magic Johnson on Instagram. The NBA is investigating whether or not that voice is really his. If it proves out to be Donald Sterling indeed, then what will the players do? What will the NBA do? Will they boot him out? And you need a miracle? Well, maybe you have a little help today. because we have two new saints, a good one and a bad one. The good one, Saint Pope John the 23rd, who brought us the great reforms of Vatican II. The bad one, Saint Pope John Paul II, who tried to crush those reforms and did nothing at all about the priest sexual abuse scandal. But both of them now are saints of the Catholic Church as of Saturday, when Pope Francis inducted them both into sainthood, if you will. So all of that to talk about. You know how to do it. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here we go.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
If it's Monday, it must be the Philippines, and it is. President Obama arriving there, fourth stop on his Asian tour. Good morning, everybody. So good to see you this morning on a Monday morning, April 28th, and welcome to the Bill Press Show. We are coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station nationwide. Also carried live on nationwide on Free Speech TV, on the Dish Network, and on DirecTV. Worldwide, you can catch us on our video stream at TawkrTV, TAWKR-TV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget, join the conversation at any time. You know the toll-free number. We'll pay you to make the call at 866-55-PRESS. Well, we won't pay you. We'll pay for the call. 866-55-PRESS. And send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, on our Facebook, facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Of course, it takes a village here to keep us on the air and cover everything. Our villagers, team members, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
Villagers, yes. Alicia Cruz. There she is, somewhere nearby, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And if we're looking good on the video stream, looking good on Free Speech TV, it's thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding, here in full support of the Wizards this morning.
That's right.
Who brought it up to two-game lead again yesterday.
Yeah, 3 games to 1 now.
3 games to 1 now against the Bulls, and game number 4 in Chicago tomorrow night.
Game 5. I'm excited.
Game 5. I'm sorry,
excited.
Yeah. Their chance to win 4 and put it away, or the chance for the Bulls to pull up and make it even more exciting.
Look, Wizards are playing really good basketball. And if they play like they did yesterday, and they were without their big man, Nene.
Right.
He's going to be back for this next game.
And by the way, the Clippers, maybe for a reason we'll be talking about, didn't play so well yesterday. Totally one-sided with the Golden State Warriors. Tim Roy on KNBR gives the final call.
Lee comes over, draws a defender over, pass knocked away by Griffin. Curry gets it to Draymond, to Iguodala, to the corner to Harrison. He'll fire and hit a 3!
Yeah, 107-90 was the final score. And, I just saw maybe almost all the fourth quarter. Clippers weren't even on the
No.
On the court.
They never had a chance.
No. Yeah.
Right off the bat, Steph Curry, he hits like 5 threes in a row. He was just hanging out at the three-point line, just eating on the Clippers all game long. Steph Curry himself was fighting racism all by himself by beating the Clippers.
Yeah, indeed. So we will start there talking about the comments by the Clippers owner, Donald Sterling, and those racist comments we heard last week from rancher Cliven Bundy. We'll talk about David Swartlick from The Root. A little bit later, reporters from Think Progress and The Hill. And in the next hour, comedian Louis Black. How's that for a Monday morning? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Bill, reality TV producer / stand-up comic Triana Lavi lives in Los Angeles, and she just upped the selfie game. She's a big fan of taking selfies, but she never really loved the way she looked in her photos. So BuzzFeed has a story of Triana. She just spent $15,000 to look better in her selfies.
What?
Wait, did she do plastic surgery, you mean?
She did plastic surgery. $15,000 she spent in plastic surgery. She wanted to get a chin implant. She had fat grafting and got a nose job. All of this is to make her have a fuller, better-looking face when she takes selfies with her camera.
Maybe just some people are so ugly they should not take selfies.
That's it. Richard Gere had a bit of an awkward exchange. Well, he's filming a movie, Time Out of Mind, and what happened is he's playing a homeless man. So a French tourist saw Richard Gere sifting through the garbage cans and walked up and said, "Would you like some pizza? I'm sorry, but it's cold." And Gere just took it. He thought it was part of the movie.
Oh, no, really?
So he took it and ate this pizza, and then this tourist didn't know until 2 days later. She saw a copy of the New York Post that had a photo of her giving Richard Gere the pizza, and explaining the situation. So maybe he's just that good of an actor.
But I hope they put that in the film. That would be great.
It would be great. It would be great.
Yeah, for real.
And one of the greatest urban legends among video game developers is that E.T. the Extraterrestrial is a movie that was released on Atari way back in 1983. And the rumor is that the developers of the game were so embarrassed with how it turned out that they took all of the copies that they could get their hands on and buried them out in the New Mexico desert. They didn't want anybody to play it.
Really?
Yep, that's the legend.
Yeah.
So Microsoft decided to see if the legend was true last week, so they went out on a hunt to find the video games, and guess what? They found them. They actually buried several hundred copies of E.T. the Extraterrestrial for Atari out in the middle of the New Mexico desert.
Unbelievable.
They can't be played, obviously, because they were just thrown in and buried, but they do exist. They were there.
What a crazy story.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Why didn't they burn them or something? But buried treasure.
Buried treasure.
There it is. Thank you, Peter. 12 minutes after the hour now. Yes, indeed. So we were just kind of dealing with, or trying to deal with, the racist comments of Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy. Then when here comes another guy down the pike, Clippers owner Donald Sterling with his incendiary comments now. David Swartlick, who's associate editor of The Root, joins us on our newsline this morning. Hello, David. Good to have you with us.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start. I want to talk about Clive Bundy, but let's start with Donald Sterling. I mean, assuming these comments that he made to his girlfriend, berating her for hanging out with black players and having her picture taken and bringing them to the game, assuming that's actually his voice on the audio tape, what's the proper punishment here? What should the players do? What do you think in the NBA?
Well, Bill, I mean, you're right, that, we just got over the Cliven Bundy thing, and now we're into this Donald Sterling thing. And as you say, if it turns out that this tape authenticates, and this is him, and these are the words that he said to her, I think the appropriate punishment is going to be something like, a long suspension, a fine, maybe he'll be banned from games. I'm not so sure I'm in the camp of people that says he should be pushed out of the NBA and forced to sell the team, not because I don't think that would be some sort of cosmic justice, but just because, there's a certain point by which we've got to address these things. Let it be clear that it's not acceptable. If the NBA disciplines its players for certain things, then it's got to discipline its owners for certain things. But let's not make too big of a deal out of it, not because you want to make light of the racism, but it almost, if they kicked him out of the league, it would almost be like saying this is just so beyond the pale, and it just doesn't happen every day. But in fact, Bill, this kind of racism, maybe it's not caught on tape, does happen every day. So I think the NBA will come up with the right suspension, whatever, and then it's time to move on. That's where I'm coming out.
But if he's allowed to stay in the league, doesn't that encourage that kind of behavior?
I mean, I see your point. Look, if the let me be clear. If the NBA does kick him out, I'm not going to feel bad.
No, I understand that, right? And also, I mean, he's sort of like, it's a contradiction to the NBA, which has a great reputation for, I mean, it is such a diverse league, if not an entire African-American league almost, right?
Right. You've got a majority of the league as African-American players.
Yes.
You've got a lot of black coaches and people also working for these organizations in back office capacities. No, I mean, it's an affront to the people who work very hard in all the capacities in the NBA. It's an affront to, what? Wait a minute. Let me expand it out, Bill. This is an affront to everybody, right? I mean, as a black person, I'm offended by it, but every American should be offended by this because it's so blatant, and I think that's the point you're getting across. To me, that was the thing that was so surprising, Bill, was that if you listen to the longer version of the tape, at some point he tells his girlfriend, there's no racism here. I'm not a racist. And that, to me, is the part that's most disturbing. Not that he said something racist, but that he said something racist and immediately followed it with, I'm not a racist. What we need to come out of this is a working definition of what racism is.
Well, yeah.
So that at least,
I guess you could say, at least he did not compare himself to Rosa Parks.
Yeah, right.
Right. Which Cliven Bundy's supporters were comparing him to Rosa Parks, and when Cliven Bundy was caught on tape, making his comments about the quote unquote the Negro, right? He then sort of shrouded himself in this idea of, well, blame Martin Luther King, and I'm just trying to tell you like it is. I mean, I think the situations are different, Bill, but at the same time, there is that element that sort of ties them together, which is this idea that people will say things and then be like shocked that people think that there is something offensive or retrograde or obnoxious about them, and that is almost more disturbing than what they said in the first place.
Right. I was wondering this morning how soon it will be before Sean Hannity embraces Donald Sterling as his new folk hero, right?
The thing, and look, I'm not going to pile on Hannity. Boy, he's stuck his foot in it so deep on this. I'm just going to let him stay there.
Yeah, let him. Let him twist in his own juice or whatever. But he certainly can pick them, right? George Zimmerman, Cliven Bundy, right? He's got to.
Right. No, he definitely has, and it is this pattern. I know you probably talked about this a little last week, where you have people on the political right who want to make a cause célèbre out of some of these people without really thinking through what they stand for. And in the case of Bundy, when I wrote about this last week, I didn't even reach the conclusion of what was in his heart, whether he's a through-and-through racist, because to me, I didn't even need to get to that conclusion. Whatever is in his heart, whatever he's trying to prove here, what Bundy showed is that there are people out there with these obnoxious retrograde views, and then just because they've gotten 15 minutes of fame and they get into this very narrow lane where they're railing against the perils and the evils of the federal government, they think that makes them an expert on everything in the world, including what's going on with black people, including why big government is bad and why people shouldn't be on government subsidies. And they're standing right there, and we're all looking at them and saying, you are grazing your cows for free on federal land. That's a government subsidy, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. And you've written about that on The Root, theroot.com. David Swartlick, associate editor of theroot.com, of The Root, our guest here. David, what they were getting, like, he's basically getting food stamps, right? He's getting such a cheap rate on these grazing, which 18,000 other ranchers pay, and he's refusing to pay. He says he doesn't even recognize the existence of the federal government, and we're supposed to call him a patriot?
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, he didn't recognize the federal government, yet he was photographed all over the place with the American flag behind him.
Right, good point.
It is this sort of for me, but not for thee attitude, and this idea that if you're wearing a big 10-gallon hat and you're riding a horse and you're out on the prairie, that somehow you're entitled to things that people who aren't like you aren't entitled to. And, it's back to this thing with the hypocrisy of some of these folks on the right. He got his own governor, Brian Sandoval, and his own senator, Dean Heller, in hot water because they jumped out in his defense.
Yes.
And, and now they're in this position where they're basically defending a guy who other people are calling a welfare cowboy.
Right.
And I think people just need to think through a little bit more what is at stake when people like this get out there and just start spouting their views that they haven't completely thought through.
Do you should we be shocked that there are people today, 2014, people in power like Donald Sterling, or people who are just like yahoos like that Cliven Bundy, that hold these views and express them? I mean, should we be shocked at that, or just say, yeah, of course there's still people out there like that?
Again, I'm not shocked. I think this is stuff that is said behind closed doors all the time. It's unfortunate.
Oh.
I think it's like a glacier. We're moving toward a better world, a better America, but it's just happening ever so slowly. And there are folks, in this case, you have two guys who have been around for a while, and they're holding on to maybe a worldview that they've held on to for a long time, and it's hard to let go. Like I was saying a minute ago, I think the thing that's most shocking is that, it's like they haven't been in front of a TV for the last 40 or 50 years, and they don't see that Well, if this is your opinion, that's fine. That's your opinion. But if you say this out loud, you're going to get pushback on this. This isn't the 1950s anymore. You know?
Yeah, no, exactly. Not in front of a TV. And I was wondering this morning whether Donald Sterling has ever looked around at the crowd at his games, right? And he said, don't bring you black people to these games. What do you mean? Right? I mean,
no, and the city that he lives in. Los Angeles is the most diverse city in the world, practically.
Right. Yeah. No, it's just so far from reality, I'm telling you. Hey, we love The Root, love the work that you do. Thanks, David, for your time this morning, too. Okay?
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right, David Swartlick is the associate editor of The Root, theroot.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, at the half hour, Travis Waldren from Think Progress Sports will be here in studio with us to talk about the NBA playoffs, but also to talk about Donald Sterling sticking his foot in and what what action the NBA might take. Meanwhile, one thing that's kind of got lost, usually gets a lot more attention, but the NRA has been having its big convention at the end of last week. I'm just trying to figure out. It was in the Indianapolis,
yep.
Right? And Wayne LaPierre, the head of the NBA, he warned everybody. NRA. Sorry, they have to. They live on scare tactics.
I know. Yeah.
Obama's going to if he's ever get elected, if he gets elected, they said back in 2008, right? He's going to take away all of your guns. Well, here we are. 4 years went by. He never did squat about gun control or anything, and yet when he was up for re-election, it was the same thing. Oh man, if he's reelected. The second term, he's going to take away all your guns. Well, he's reelected. And Obama hasn't done anything. He did try to do some sensible things about ending gun violence. But so now the head of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, his big message out in Indianapolis was that guns and contributions can protect them from murderers and from Michael Bloomberg. God. Tell you. And of course, the politician showed up to pander in front of this audience. Rick Santorum, Pander Bear Rick Santorum. He says, if you want to give your wife something really good for Mother's Day, do what I do. Give her the right gift.
The default gift for most men is to buy flowers on a special occasion. For me, the safe bet, ammo. Right? Come on, right?
Ammo.
Come on, right?
And Sarah Palin says, here's what I would do, baby.
If I were in charge...
Oh, God.
They would know that waterboarding is how we baptize terrorists.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, at 33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill, brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their international president, Leo Gerard, the one and only colorful, outspoken Leo Gerard, heading the USW, North America's largest industrial union, representing over 1.2 million active and retired members. And their website is usw.org, where you can find out more about their good work. So, Cliven Bundy has a big smile on his face this morning because he can now say, I'm not the only racist out there. There's this guy from L.A., you know him, huh? Donald Sterling, his comments allegedly by him on audio tape making a lot of noise this weekend. Enough to keep Travis Waldren working all weekend from Think Progress Sports. It's hard. Don't we hate it when news happens over the weekend?
Always.
Yeah. Then you got to go back to work, right?
Go back to work.
So what's the story with this, Sterling? What do we know about him anyhow? I mean, first of all, do you think this is him on the audio tape?
I think so.
I do too.
I think if it wasn't you, then your first response would be, that wasn't me on the tape.
That's not me, right.
And his response was, these things that were allegedly ascribed to me, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not the denial you would give. That's not the denial I would give.
Yeah, right.
It's not the denial I would give even if it was me on the tape. It's certainly not the denial I would give if it definitely was me, or if it wasn't me. I would come out forcefully. And, it's and the thing is with Donald Sterling, this is not necessarily shocking.
Yeah.
He has a history of racial discrimination in housing and potentially in employment, and the NBA has not done anything about it. And if you know Donald Sterling, if you know his history, then this is less than shocking.
So the word that I keep hearing today is that the NBA former head of the NBA, who was David Stern, was just not tough enough on Sterling, and this time that Adam Silver's really got to drop the hammer.
I don't think he has a choice. I don't think he has a choice. And I think Mark Tracy from the New Republic wrote a really good piece yesterday about how this is kind of it's a players' league now in a lot of ways, and especially because your superstars, your LeBron Jameses and Carmelo Anthonys and Chris Pauls have figured out that they have power and that when they assert themselves, they can cause change. And
Chris Paul is a Clippers player and head of the
Players Union, newly elected head of the Players Union. And I think
what a position to be in, by the way.
Right.
Wow.
And the guy who's acting as the head of the Players Union is Kevin Johnson, who played in the league and is now the mayor of Sacramento. And he was forceful about it. I think Chris Paul has been pretty good, if diplomatic on it. He sort of has to be, because right now it's still his team and they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I just don't think. I think with the way LeBron James came out, and I think that's the key one almost. The way LeBron James, Saturday afternoon before a playoff game, comes out and he says, there is no place for this in our league.
Right. Yes.
And not the NBA, not anything, our league. And he says, I don't think LeBron's given him any choice. And I think if you don't do something about Don Sterling now, you're risking the players taking their own measure.
All right. Now, what power does the head of the NBA have?
That's the question.
Can he disenfranchise him? Can he?
That's the question.
Ban him from the
NBA
game,
doesn't have an antitrust exemption the way that some of the other leagues do, the way that baseball does or the NFL does. So whether they can take the franchise away from him is not clear. And they certainly can't do it without a lawsuit. Whether they can suspend him and sort of backdoor him into selling the team, which is like a penalty in its own in a way, but also this team is probably worth somewhere around $700 million. So it's a team that he paid $12.5 million for 25 years ago.
Wow.
So he's if he sells the team, he's going to make a lot of money.
He's going to laugh all the way to the bank, huh?
Right? But I think there is a punishment there because Don Sterling likes to be seen, and his team for the first time in his ownership is actually good. It's actually worth being seen around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the NBA can do. Adam Silver said they have a broad range of options if they verify that this was him on the tape, which is going to be hard to do.
But they can, with voice identification,
right,
they can do that.
Right.
Can't they? I mean,
I would think so.
Sterling, there's enough audio tape out there of Sterling.
Well, and the people who know Donald Sterling, Magic Johnson was on ABC yesterday before the playoffs started and said, he seemed pretty sure that this was Donald Sterling. And Magic playing in L.A. for so long, he knows Donald Sterling.
Yeah.
And, they have a lot of options. It'll be interesting to see how they go about it.
What should the players do? Or what do you think they will? Because Chris Paul has also said, we will take some definite strong action. Does that mean they don't play? They refuse to play? They refuse to play on his team, or any team refuses to play the Clippers? Or
it'll be interesting to see. Last night or yesterday afternoon, they said that Chris Paul told ABC that they had talked about a boycott, and they had talked about what actions they could take immediately, and whatever they were going to do as a team. So they opted for the little silent protest before the game, which I thought was a nice gesture.
That was,
I think to ask them not to play is, there's a lot of people out there saying they should boycott, they shouldn't play. I can't really speak for them on that. They're the ones who are affected. I don't think that the burden should fall on them, though. I don't think you should say Don Sterling's a racist, so they shouldn't. They should set aside this entire season. But I do think that Kevin Johnson said yesterday that the players want a seat at the table when it comes to disciplining Sterling.
Right.
And they want to have a voice in this. And I think with Chris Paul being from the organization, they will try to have a voice in this. I think when you have a superstar like Blake Griffin, he will try to have a voice in this. And I think, again, go back to LeBron and all of these guys who have, LeBron, unlike some superstars in the past, has asserted himself as a leader and on not just NBA issues. He spoke out about the lockout. He thought about running for the head of the union. But he also spoke out on Trayvon Martin and on different issues. This is a guy who kind of seems to get the power that he has. And I would be shocked if the players don't take a big stand in some way, especially during the offseason.
And there's another player in this whole equation, the fans.
Right.
Right? I mean, if they do nothing, the fans could certainly take some action.
I think so. I think
I would think they would in L.A. for sure.
I would think so too. I thought did you see the sign yesterday at the game from
Peter
the
was telling me about
Warriors
it.
fan who's
So
one guy had the sign that said I'm black and the other one said and I brought a black guy to the game. I think that's probably the best way for the fans to do it right now. I hope Clippers fans show up for their next home game and kind of make a scene about it. If I was a fan, that's sort of what I would do. I don't know what you do. Do you?
It's a tough line.
Or you just boycott and don't buy any tickets.
Right, but again, that's the hard question. It's kind of like if you're a neutral observer, do you root for the Clippers for the players and for Doc Rivers, or do you root against them because if they win, it helps Donald Sterling's pockets?
Right.
I don't. It's all hard because Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan. They don't deserve any of this. They don't deserve to be in the position that they're in now. Doc Rivers said last night in his press conference, "We're going home now," and that was our safe haven, and I don't know if it is anymore. And that's terrible. Doc Rivers is a great coach.
It messes with your head,
right? Doc Rivers is a great coach. He has by all means seems like he's been a great man for his players and a good influence on the NBA. And a very positive person, and for him to now have to face this, and for his players to now have to face this and question, what are we even doing? It's just tough. And I would love to see them go win.
But as
kind of their own little middle finger to the man.
If you're a Clipper fan, you've suffered for a long time. I mean, Clipper fan has had a really tough go of it.
Right, but in a way, this is kind of almost the perfect... If this is the last we see of Donald Sterling, this is almost the perfect way. This is a guy who, the Clippers have not been bad by chance. They have been bad because he has run them into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And if they finally get a chance to win, in large part because the NBA helped them get there by vetoing the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers and sending him to the Clippers instead, if he runs this into the ground because of what he said, because he's a racist and because he's just seems like a generally awful person, it's almost the perfect ending to the Donald Sterling story.
Yeah.
And, a sad ending, a terrible ending because it affects other people.
It's something the other, of course, last week was all about Cliven Bundy, the rancher, right? But so to me, it's less shocking that this Yahoo rancher in the wilds of Nevada, right, living out there in the middle of nowhere, would have views like this than that Donald Sterling is in L.A., if not one of the most diverse cities in the country, and a huge African American population and following and members of the team. That he would have these views and express them.
But if you go back, if you go back to who Donald Sterling has been, he's a real estate magnate who has faced two of the biggest housing discrimination suits in American history, has settled them for millions of dollars because he didn't want black people living in the places he owned, in Beverly Hills and in other parts of town. Blacks, Hispanics, others, families with children. This is a guy who has built his empire on this. And then his answer to why he can tolerate having a team full of black people because he feeds them and clothes them. This is the thing. This audio is very visceral and has gotten a reaction because it's audio and you can hear it. Yeah. This is probably the mildest form of racism in terms of actual impact that Donald Sterling has practiced in years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Whoa. All about Donald Sterling. There's more happening in the sports world, including a big union vote at Northwestern University last week. And did we mention the NBA playoffs? Did we mention the Wizards? 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Your comments, what should the players do? What should the NBA do? What should the fans do about Donald Sterling? Here with Travis Waldren from Think Progress Sports. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes now before the top of the hour. In the next hour, we're going to talk a little bit about net neutrality, and then we'll be joined by legendary comedian Lewis Black, just to get us off to a wild start here on a Monday morning. Travis Waldren from Think Progress Sports here in studio with us. Lots in the sports world to talk about this Monday morning. Travis, always good to see you. Thanks again for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So how soon they can't wait very long before they authenticate this tape, right? I mean, they got.
I don't think
they
got to
act
long.
fast.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying, back again, leaning on LeBron, who said you got to do something before this spins out of control, and it's quickly spinning that way.
Right.
No, I don't think you can wait too long.
And I don't think you'll have to either.
I don't either.
Look, with our law enforcement agencies now, shoot, get the NSA. Yeah.
Oh, no.
They probably have it.
They
have it.
The NSA.
Hello, NSA.
They'll know.
We did a quick favor.
Tell them
away.
the address and the time.
Yeah, right. We got you.
Say hello to Eric. Eric calling from Maumee, Ohio. Hello, Eric. Good morning.
Hey, what's going on?
You tell me. What do you think ought to happen to this guy?
Hey, I think the guys, as an athlete, I think the guys need to play the season on out.
And
I don't think they're gonna win the championship anyway. But play the season out, boycott.
Yeah.
Call Oprah Russell Simmons at the end of the season. Hey.
All right, Eric. Good to hear from you. Play the season out. And
I mean, I think it is. We talked about sort of it's a tough line of who are you supporting here, right? You supporting the Clippers and the owners, or you supporting the Clippers and the team, right?
Well, then the play boycott question is not. I don't think either is obvious.
Right.
All right, I want to ask you about something else. So this big election last week in Northwest University for the college players, football players, to be able to form a union. How'd it go? What was the vote?
We don't know yet. We are waiting.
What do you mean? You didn't count the votes?
No, they're in Florida apparently, or somewhere. No, the NLRB agreed to review the regional director's decision that gave them the right to hold that vote. So until the NLRB comes to a decision, we will not know the outcome for sure. Though there were rumblings Friday that it did not go well for the players.
Should they have the right to form a vote? And if they do so at Northwestern, will this spread to other campuses?
I think they should. I think if you read the letter of the law and the way that the regional director outlined his decision, I think it makes a lot of sense that these guys look a lot like employees. Especially when it comes to football, there's no academic side to football. They're given a scholarship because they can play football, and they go out there and do it.
So the thinking is they're working for the university, they're employees in the university on a distinct branch, if you will, or a business and a job at the university, which they do. So therefore they should be able to join collective bargaining and form a union. If they vote to do that.
Exactly. And as far as whether it spreads to other places, it only applies to private schools because the NLRB is only the National Labor Relations Act only applies to private businesses. State colleges are governed by state labor law. So athletes there would have to go to their state courts and say, hey, well, we think we're employees too. Can we have this right?
Right.
And I wrote last week a piece about how there's a chance that if the NLRB decides to, they could ultimately help. This case could help extend the right to graduate students because they could end up reviewing a case that was handed down under the Bush administration's NLRB that took away bargaining rights from a lot of graduate students at private colleges. The players, as part of their brief to the NLRB, have said that decision was ruled incorrectly and that it should be reviewed as part of this case. So there's a chance that this could go beyond college athletes and help other students get the right to bargain too.
All right, so the Wizards going to wrap it up tomorrow night?
I hope so. I hope they fare better than Peter's team over here.
I don't want to talk about this.
I heard Vince Carter hit a nice big shot out there.
Man.
How's it feel to get beat by a guy who hasn't hit a shot since like 1999?
It was so crushing. It was so crushing. Old man Carter out there.
Thank you, Travis, just for rubbing it in.
You seem way too interesting to be a Spurs fan. It's like the most boring team in basketball.
Killing me, man.
I'm just kidding, Spurs fans out there.
They're fundamentally sound.
Yes, they're a good team. I'm just joking.
Travis, great to see you, as
too.
always. All right, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Tell you what the president's up to today in the Philippines.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, the first 2 hours, really, really good, but the third hour promises to be even better. You don't want to miss it. So those of you that were losing on Free Speech TV, jump over to our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. In the next hour, we'll talk net neutrality, find out what the FCC is up to with Kate Tummarello from The Hill, and then the great legendary comedian Louis Black joins us. All of that coming up in hour number 3 on TawkrTV.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. 我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
On the president's schedule today, he has arrived in the Philippines with meetings with President Benigno Aquino of the Philippines, of course, one of our strongest and longest allies in Asia. He and the two presidents will hold a joint news conference this afternoon. And then tonight, another state dinner. I think this is the 4th state dinner that the president has had on this trip so far.
Not bad.
Not bad. But he's probably just ready for like a burger right about now, you know. And then he will spend the night in the Philippines and back to Washington tomorrow, arriving around 7 o'clock, Tuesday evening, back at the White House. Meanwhile, Vice President Joe Biden is in Washington today. He will be holding meetings at the White House, and then this afternoon at 2 o'clock, giving a big economic address over at George Washington University. We'll come back and talk net neutrality.
Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, we come to work. That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100 and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or wherever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
If it's Monday, it must be the Philippines. And that's where President Obama is. Fourth stop on his Asian tour. He has just arrived at the state dinner, the fourth state dinner of his trip so far, there with President Benigno Aquino of the Philippines. Meanwhile, we're keeping things alive here in Washington, D.C., awaiting his return tomorrow, as well as the return of the House and the Senate. And then back to work, one would hope. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. Monday, April 28th, the Bill Press Show. We are here in Washington, D.C. We are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station all around this country of ours. We are there with you on our video stream worldwide at youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR, TawkrTV. The entire team here this morning on a Monday morning, surviving the weekend and coming back in to give it another shot. Peter Ogburn and Alicia Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Alicia Cruz has the phones covered there to take your calls. Give her a call at 866-55-PRESS. And on the video stream, Cyprian Bolding's got the lights on, got the cameras on, and keeping us looking good. Our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. We want to get into the high weeds a little bit here at the top of the hour, but a very, very important issue called net neutrality. She's been writing about this for The Hill. Tech reporter Kate Tummarello from The Hill. Good morning, Kate.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Thanks for coming back in. And by the way, so he just does not slow down at all. Former President Bill Clinton. He's up to so many good things, giving a talk over the weekend where he came out again for efforts to raise a minimum wage to a decent living wage level. And he said, you hear all this talk about, oh, no, we can't do that because it'll cost people jobs or whatever. Bill Clinton just scoffed at that.
We raised the minimum wage when I was president. I tried to raise it twice. I raised it at home when I was governor. I have never lived through one increase in the minimum wage that was bad for the economy.
That's it. It's always actually good for the economy. And the president says it in his own style.
The explainer-in-chief.
Explainer-in-chief. Soon to be Granddad Bill.
That's right.
Yeah, how about that? I keep talking about Hillary's going to be a grandmother. He's going to be a grandfather.
That's right.
Yeah. So he's happy about that, too. So we're going to talk net neutrality here for the first half hour. And then Lewis Black, comedian Lewis Black, joining us for the second half of this hour. So we're going to stay tuned for both. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
A couple of other stories making news. It's Monday, so let's take a look at the weekend box office where Captain America the Winter Soldier was knocked out of first place for the first time in 4 weeks, where it's been sitting that whole time. In first place is The Other Woman, starring Cameron Diaz, winning the box office for the weekend. It pulled in $24.7 million. And I mentioned Captain America the Winter Soldier fell to second. Its total gross, as of now, $224.8 million. Not bad.
No, not bad at all.
Not a bad run.
Hollywood's still racking it up there.
Starbucks isn't
the movie
just...
to see is the Grand Budapest Hotel.
I still haven't seen that, by the way.
It's awesome.
Did you see it?
Good, yeah.
Isn't it good?
I really like
So
Wes
funny.
Anderson, but I just haven't had a chance to go see it yet.
Well, you go see all this other trash.
I saw Captain America, but I took
I know.
the kids. I can't take the kids to the Grand Budapest Hotel, so I'll go. Starbucks, by the way, it's not just for coffee anymore. They serve all kinds of things there, teas and pastries and whatnots. They now have announced that in 3,000 of their stores nationwide, they're going to be rolling out their Physio line of handcrafted drinks. In a press release they put out, they're going to be sodas, which are going to be ginger ale, spiced root beer, and lemon ale, with more expected. So carbonated sodas in Starbucks.
That they make? They're going to make?
They're going to make right there for you.
Well, going to try to keep on the edge on, I guess.
I guess so.
I don't think they have a great food selection at Starbucks.
Well, they
have some stuff, they got.
They do sandwiches and they have pastries and things like that. I'm not advocating you eat them. I mean, they were made weeks ago, probably. But and sad news for eligible ladies around the country. George Clooney has announced he is engaged to lawyer Amal Alamuddin. They've been dating for 7 months. Clooney, who was married back in 1989 for about 4 years, said that after that marriage fell apart, he just says, I'm not very good at being married, and I'm never going to get married again. Guess he's going back on that. His friends have made it official. She's been seen with a ring. So congratulations to the most eligible bachelor, maybe on the entire planet, George Clooney.
Boy, you know what? That's going to be a hell of a wedding, huh?
Yeah.
Well, they're either going to have to do it one of two ways. Either do it like secretly, very small wedding with just a couple of friends, or have the biggest blowout Hollywood has ever seen.
Here's the real question. I wonder if the president will be there.
Sure.
Because last week he called the president his friend. He's friends with Barack Obama. I wonder if the president will go.
So maybe it'll be a White House wedding.
President's been to his house, Clooney's house. Remember he had that fundraiser?
Right. All right. All kinds of speculation about that. That's almost as exciting as net neutrality.
Almost.
All right, so Kate, I'm really glad you came in today because I know, here's the deal. I know this is an important issue. I know, especially being in the media, that this is something I ought to really care about. And I know that our listeners and our viewers ought to really care about this too, but I don't know why. Okay, so just break it down for us. Who are the good guys and who are the bad guys, first of all?
It depends, where you're sitting. So the Federal Communications Commission had these net neutrality rules, and these were a key piece of the Obama administration's goals and the Obama campaign. This is something that, they really pushed for. So these net neutrality rules back in the day, before January of this year, kept internet providers, your Comcast, your Verizon, your AT&T, those companies, from blocking or slowing access to certain websites. So, when Comcast, if you're a Comcast subscriber and you want to access Netflix is bandwidth heavy. It takes a lot to be able to access those video streams, especially in high definition. And, Comcast was not allowed to say, you know what, Netflix, you're too much. We're going to charge users more to get to you. They weren't allowed to do that, and they weren't allowed to slow down Netflix. And then in January, federal court overturned these rules. They said these rules, they're too broad. They treat internet providers like telephone companies, and traditionally telephone companies are just more heavily regulated. So the FCC has the daunting task of rewriting these rules. And I mean, everyone who cares about this stuff is watching very closely. And FCC Chairman Tom Wheeler announced last week that he's going to rewrite the rules that in a way that allows for internet fast lanes. That's kind of the term that's been thrown around a lot in the last week. So, if Comcast has to serve up Netflix, but maybe Comcast doesn't have to serve up Netflix in a, super well way. Maybe they can kind of slow it down or make it so that the user has to wait longer to watch it. And now Netflix can kind of go to them and they can work out a commercially reasonable agreement where Netflix pays a little more so that Comcast subscribers can get to Netflix faster.
What does it mean for the consumer?
Well, that remains to be seen. The argument goes that if Comcast charges Netflix more, Netflix will charge its users more. And that looks definitely possible. We saw Comcast and Netflix reach a similar agreement, a little bit different in terms of where along the network this agreement was. But they reached this agreement earlier this year, and then Netflix announced last week that they would be upping their subscription price by $1 or $2 for new subscribers. So people are really worried that if these content companies, Netflix, Google, Skype, anyone who provides bandwidth-heavy services, if they have to pay more to Comcast and Verizon, then maybe users will have to pay more.
I agree. I don't think that we hear a ton about this story, but the people that I do hear from, the advocates for net neutrality, this is their issue more than
I know
more than like other issues that people take on. Right? People say it's the death of the internet. What does it mean going beyond the Comcast Netflix thing? What could this lead to down the road that people are so adamant about?
So the worst case scenario is, Comcast gets to act as a gatekeeper. Comcast can say, you know what, we don't really like this website, so we're going to make it load really slowly when you try and load it, so that way you just navigate away from it because it's 2014, we're used to pulling up things in 2 seconds. We're not going to wait for a page to load. Comcast also owns NBC Universal, so they have a competing interest here. Netflix provides video content. Comcast provides video content. Comcast could say, in theory, we don't like the fact that Netflix is competing with us, so we want you to watch Comcast's content instead of Netflix's content. We're going to degrade this site.
Yeah.
That sucks. I mean, that's pretty messed up.
I mean, we're waiting to see what the rules exactly look
Sure.
like. We won't know until the May 15th meeting where the commission's going to vote to move forward with this rulemaking process. But those are the fears. That down the road, this could become these gatekeepers who decide what we watch and when.
And ideally, from a consumer point of view, right, what we want is easy, equal access to everything for free.
Yeah, well, once we pay our internet bill, we expect to kind of just get everything that we want to access that's lawful. I mean, obviously,
Yeah, right.
there are things that are illegal online, but in terms of lawful content, you expect Netflix to load as quickly as YouTube, to load as quickly as any other site. You don't think like, oh, maybe my internet provider is slowing it down because they have a beef with Google, so they're not going to let this YouTube video load.
And just so I understand again, under the new FCC, so the new FCC rules are not out yet, right?
Not yet. May 15th, we'll see them.
Okay, but the chairman, they're either already written or they're still being written. But the chairman has indicated that I'm going to go along with some of these, allowing some of these restrictions. Correct?
Yes, he said he's open to commercially reasonable agreements, which means we'll have to wait to see what those agreements look like, what he decides that means.
Yeah. And doesn't that fly in the face of what Obama promised as a candidate?
That's definitely the argument a lot of people are making. People will point to statements he made during the 2008 campaign and in his early years as president, when he talked about not wanting these fast lanes, wanting the internet to be open and equal. And some people will say, well, this is a turnaround in policy. The FCC would reply that, this isn't a turnaround in policy. There was always some room for discrimination against internet traffic. This is just a more explicit endorsement.
And when the FCC, so is this all up to the FCC? They have total jurisdiction
They're an
here?
independent agency. They can kind of do, what they see fit. I mean, they do answer to Congress in terms of appropriations funding. And, there are many ways that Congress is looking to weigh in. I think it's interesting that everybody on the Hill is against this proposal.
Oh, really?
You have Democrats saying that you're, creating a tiered internet where if you can pay a lot, you get faster traffic. Users can access you faster. If you're not deep pocketed, if you're a startup, if you're the next Netflix, then you can't pay for that fast lane. But you also have Republicans arguing that the FCC shouldn't even be trying to bring back these rules in the first place because they've been struck down by a federal court. They think this is just a fool's errand. So
yeah. So if the FCC rules this way, that's probably going to be the way it is, unless Congress passes some legislation to reverse it, right?
I mean, Congress could step in a number of ways, but it looks like this is the FCC's territory here. Chairman Wheeler said he wants this done by the end of the year because when these net neutrality rules got struck down in January, that removed any kind of net neutrality protection. Right now, they would say the internet is the Wild West. If Comcast wants to block something from you, they can because the FCC has no rules on the books preventing that. And so Wheeler said he wants to get this done quickly by the end of the year, have something up so that consumers are protected.
Does this have any relationship at all to the possible Comcast merger talks between
it
Comcast
always seems
and Time
to.
Warner now? Right.
So Comcast, when it bought NBC Universal in 2011, they agreed to this net neutrality principle, the rules that had been in place at the time. And those are in effect until 2018. And Comcast has said if it merges with Time Warner Cable, it will extend those net neutrality protections to all Time Warner Cable subscribers.
Yeah.
And so you could see people, maybe as Comcast looks to buy Time Warner Cable, the FCC could be putting on more conditions. Maybe you have to extend the net neutrality protections 5 years longer or stronger protections. We'll see what the agency does with that. But, this is definitely a piece in the system. It's all moving very quickly.
Yeah. Well, at least Al Franken is out there raising hell about it. Not many other people, but it for everybody who's not wired in these days, right? They ought to know about this, and they ought to be not just be aware of it, but beware of it. And where do they direct their? Let's talk about that when we come back. What can you do? Where do you direct your comments, and how can you keep up to date on exactly what's happening to your internet availability? 866-55-PRESS. Fascinating question here with Kate Tummarello from The Hill.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Comedian Louis Black in the next half hour here of the Bill Press Show. Right now we're talking net neutrality in all of its dimensions, what it is and why you ought to be worried about it, with Kate Tummarello from The Hill, tech reporter for The Hill. Of course, it's thehill.com. Kate, let's go out to Madison, Wisconsin, and say a big good morning to Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Well, I'm totally against it. I mean, this is the commons. This is some of the last of the commons. The infrastructure was developed a lot by the government, which makes it belong to the people. And handing the internet over to the commons, you're handing it over to the corporations. It's going to be a tiered network, and small news sites that I really depend on that have no corporate ties, like the Daily Kos, that happen to do much more in-depth reporting, are not going to be able to exist.
That's the fear. I mean, Catherine, you express it very well, and I've heard that from a lot of people, Kate. The commons, this is the commons, and it is, right, on the internet. I mean, people get on it and go anywhere. You can talk to anybody. You can access anything. You can watch anything. You can read anything. You can learn anything. So why should there be any barriers at all? And why wouldn't the FCC be taking that position?
Well, the FCC, it's all still in flux. This is just kind of the first step on this rulemaking.
Yeah, but they've indicated they're going to accept some controls, some limits, right?
Yeah.
Some barriers.
They would say that they're going to look at all these different fast lane agreements very closely and make sure they don't hurt consumers, and make sure they're not anti-competitive, make sure they don't hurt the market. We won't know until May 15th what exactly that evaluation will look like under these proposed rules, because it's just not public yet.
Right. But we seem to have an indication, though, that they're caving in.
Oh, this is definitely a step back from the former rules, which were stronger.
Mike in Chicago on WCPT. Hello, Mike.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Glad you're there. Sure.
Well, the loss of net neutrality, I think, really hurt entrepreneurs. I mean, let's say, just for example, Netflix is paying Comcast $10,000 a month to stream their video. If I want to create a streaming video service, I'm a startup. I don't have very much money. I can't afford to pay those same fees. So, my signal, my bandwidth gets cut. No one goes to my site. Everyone pays with Netflix or Fox or whatever.
Well, isn't that true, Kate? I mean, right.
That's
so
the concern.
the people that have the big bucks will be able to get the access, and the people that don't, which again contradicts the spirit of the internet, doesn't it?
I mean, it definitely, it is a step back from what they've previously said about wanting to keep it open and not having these fast lanes. It's always kind of been a thing they didn't want, and now it looks like they're going to allow these fast lanes. I mean, the FCC says they want input from everyone, so you can file public comments, and this is a multi-step process, so there will be plenty of chances to weigh in, as a member of the public. But, Wheeler has kind of said where he wants to go with this, and it looks like, if you're the next Netflix and you can't afford this fast lane, you get the slower service.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for the call. And Kate, thank you for your time this morning. Thanks for coming in. Now I understand what it is. Now I'm even more worried about it. So keep on top of this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 33 minutes after the hour. It's Monday, April 28th, coming to you live from our nation's capital. What do you say? And, everybody here in Washington very excited because this is a prom weekend coming up, we call it. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is next Saturday night. But that is not the most exciting entertainment news of the week, because Friday night, the night before, at 10 o'clock on EPIX, premiere of the new special, Old Yeller, live at the Borgata with Louis Black. You know him from The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and we welcome him on our news line this morning. Hey, Louis, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. How's it going?
Everything's doing great. We're trying to, survive here in our nation's capital, such as
I'm from that area, so I don't know how you do it.
You got out of town. We're stuck here.
I know, and I just came back. I was just at the Warner Theater for 3 nights a couple of weeks ago, and just really, it's stunning it's unbelievable. It's so different from when I was a kid. It's just beyond belief.
It's stunning. How many people spend how much time accomplishing absolutely nothing, right?
Absolutely nothing, and then yelling about how there should be a smaller government. And in the meantime, if you actually have a smaller government, Washington, D.C. goes back to when it was when I was a kid, when we had a smaller government. So good luck with that, idiots.
Yeah, all right. So
what a bunch of schmucks.
I know. Hey, but then you've got this rancher out in Nevada, right, who doesn't believe in the federal government at all, right? And Fox News is making him their new folk hero.
Yeah, no, he believes in Tinkerbell. Seriously, why we continue to turn the cameras onto morons is beyond, everything on television has got to be kind of a story now. So here he is, and he's the rancher, and he's really upset, and meanwhile everyone else is paying. So it's not like there are 20 people.
Yeah.
Which should still be small. Everybody else is paying that.
Right.
And it's a minimal amount. It's like, is somebody, that means if there's, unless it's some sort of a revelation, someone is having a revelation when 99.9% of the people are doing it one way and the other guy's doing it another way. chances are that person's nuts. Okay, there's a good 70 to 30% chance he's crazy. Let's go with that.
Right. Yeah. And don't you think maybe Rand Paul or Dean Heller or Ted Cruz might have looked into this guy a little bit before they held him up as their latest hero?
Well, research is none of their strong suits. None of them really seem to know what a library is.
Or Google.
Or Google or any of it.
No.
Well, they got Google, they know what it is, because then they can find a website that backs up whatever the research is that they want. They probably there was a picture of Clive, and they went, oh, he's a handsome man. When you carry a dead calf on the television, nobody goes, something's wrong.
No, indeed.
Hey, Lewis.
I just have to. So now, Clive Bundy, he's got a big smile on his face today, though, Lewis, because he's not the only racist out there. Now we have Donald Sterling.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that spectacular?
On top of that.
Yeah, no, I keep saying, I've said it for a long time, if stupidity were oil, we'd be the richest country on earth.
Well, let's not forget, though, that the Supreme Court and the Republicans, racism is over, right? I mean, racism is essentially over.
It is over, except in basketball and football and many of our other, no problem with that Redskin name either. There's none at all.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We talk about that a lot, too.
Yeah, you're hitting...
Well, I basically, look, here's part of your problem. You got people like me born and raised there, and the word Redskin doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't. Because seriously, because you hear it as a kid. I don't think about the fact that the representative, that it's the Washington Redskins. Okay, so it's not. I've never thought of it. I've never thought of it as like anything other than a name. Nothing. Indian didn't come into my. I didn't think, oh boy, they're the Native Americans.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
There wasn't a Native American on the ball club. You just thought of it as a name, like the Bullets was a name.
At one time,
and the Wizards is the dumbest name.
I agree.
So you end up with this, and then, you kind of go. Then I kind of, you basically at some point realize, well, they wouldn't call them the Washington Jews either. Okay, it wouldn't happen. And once Dan Snyder said he wouldn't change the name, I had so much problems with that idiot that I just went, okay, then that's it. Change the name. I don't care anymore. Just do it.
Yeah.
Change it to anything that upsets him.
That's worth it. That's a good rule of life, I think. Anything that upsets Dan Snyder.
Anything that upsets him
right.
the way he's upset me for 12 years.
Anything he's for, we are against.
Exactly.
Hey, so with your eye on Washington, how do you think Obama's doing?
I think he's doing exactly what I expected, because I didn't have this kind of a big hoo-ha. He was selling hope, which was never, at my age, hope really doesn't work. At 65, hope is really, tell me what you're going to do next Thursday, jackass. I don't have 40 years to hope.
So, have you ever seen Lewis Black's stand-up? It's not a lot of hopey, changey type of stuff.
No, it's not happening. Seriously, hope's a young man's game.
Mm-hmm.
Hope is really, hope for, that's the way it works.
So you didn't expect much, and you didn't get much. Is that sort of sum it up?
I didn't get much. No, I got basically I got what I expected, which was after the time we spent with Bush, the next president, no matter who he was dealing with a population that was essentially a stroke victim, and if he could get the stroke victim to raise its right hand, then we were moving in the proper direction. He was going to have to get some sort of movement, and we still haven't gotten it. There's signs of life.
Yeah, but
it's we really have to get on it. I mean, the idea that it's like, okay, we're going to wind down the war, now let's beat each other up.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hey, now,
our job is to sit and talk to each other. Don't talk to us. Go down. If it's so important to you, Obama, go down to Congress and put your foot down. I almost said a bad word.
That's right. We have our finger on the button, and we use it.
Don't say it.
No. I'm not inviting you to it.
All right, Jim. In the 25 years I've been, on radio, radio and TV. I've done it once.
Really? Oh, man.
That's better than Bill.
I've done it more than that.
This
week. All right. This week, right. All right, so it's EPIX comedy event this Friday night, May 2nd. Lewis Black with Old Yeller live at the Borgata. Hey, love you, Lewis. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Hey, thanks, guys, and good luck down there.
All right.
If you watch them not get anything done, it's always a treat.
Keeps us in business.
That's right.
Yeah, no kidding. So long.
All right, thanks. Lewis Black, he is wound up this morning, as always.
He's great.
No, he really is. He's got a great take on Washington. But I love the fact I didn't expect much. I didn't get much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I saw him do stand-up in person several years ago.
Oh, really?
With him and David Tell and a guy named Mitch Hedberg, who's no longer with us. Just absolutely one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He is so good. I'm sure it's going to be great. And he does a lot of great political stuff. So, yeah, you should definitely tune in. I'll be watching.
Well, we ran out of time. I wanted to ask him, because he talks a lot about married life and married couples and stuff, and he's not very hopey about that.
No, he's not very hopey at all.
Yeah. I was wondering what advice he might have for George Clooney. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah, exactly. I think it's safe to call him a pessimist.
Yeah. But, he grew up in Washington. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And we certainly like his rule that whatever's good, whatever's bad for Dan Snyder, we love.
I'm into it.
That's right.
I like it.
Whatever he's against, we're for. All right. We got it here in the Monday edition of the Bill Press Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. President Obama, we mentioned, is in the Philippines. Meetings this afternoon with, already afternoon their time, of course, President Benigno Aquino. He is now at the state dinner with President Aquino in the Philippines. And Peter, they're eating well?
I've been watching to see. We just finished breakfast. The president is having a state dinner right now. Here's what they're eating. Here's what's on the menu there. Lobster carpaccio with baby sprouts and fiddlehead ferns with calamansi jam, which is not something I'm familiar with.
No. Lobster carpaccio. I was at the dinner here in Washington Friday night, and one of the people at our table had lobster carpaccio.
Oh, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
He's also having
Corduroy's, the name of the restaurant. Great restaurant.
Seafood stew with river prawns, scallops, and smoked mussels.
Ooh.
Sweet banana and rich tomato and coriander sauce. Red dotted lapu with a peely nut crust, pumpkin mash, and local vegetables cooked in coconut.
Is lapu a Philippine fish or something?
It's like grouper.
Mahi?
It's like
Oh,
grouper.
like grouper?
Yeah.
Okay.
And annatto lemongrass marinated U.S. prime rib. Gonna get the beef in there with farmed vegetables and a coconut lychee ice cream served with mango strudel. Not bad.
Now, I know Michelle did not go with him on this trip, but do you think she's approved each of the...
I'm not sure how the calories work out on that, but it's relative. I mean, a seafood stew,
Yeah.
Lobster carpaccio. It's not cooked in a lot of...
No.
The prime rib, though. I don't know if that's on the approved list.
I hope he's working out every day that he's over there, because he certainly has been eating well. Well, the big story of the day, and I'll have my parting shot on this just a little bit, of course, are the racist comments we still have to say allegedly made by Donald Sterling. But I don't know anybody who thinks a voice on the tape is not a Donald Sterling, where the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers is talking to a former girlfriend and gets into a rant about the fact that she hangs out with black players. Now, this is the owner of the Clippers, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He doesn't like the fact she hangs out with black players, that she had her photograph taken with Magic Johnson and posted it on Instagram. And he certainly doesn't like the fact that she would bring black players to his basketball games to see the Clippers play, who are 70, 80% black, right? I mean,
at least.
Yeah.
I mean, they're at least, yeah.
Right. In a stadium, blanking on the name of the stadium in L.A., where they play in L.A.
The Staples?
Staples Center, right, thank you. Which were probably, the audience is 50% black anyhow, right? I mean, it's just insane that he would have these thoughts and express them publicly. But here he is talking to V. Santiano, his
not
former girlfriend.
Yeah.
Viviano, maybe.
Stiviano. That's it. V. Stiviano.
Stiviano.
Man.
Saying, why are you doing this? Why are you hanging out with these people?
Nobody said you did anything wrong.
I don't do anything wrong. If we ever have any issues, it's because people call you and tell you things about me that are not
Why
true.
are you broadcasting?
I'm not broadcasting
Why are you
anything.
taking pictures with minorities? Why?
Why are you taking pictures with minorities?
Man.
Why? Yeah. He says, and she says, Kurt, what does it, she shows some sense here saying, what does it matter what color these people are hanging out with? And he says, no, it does matter.
You perceive as either a Latina or a white girl. Why should you be walking publicly with black people? Why?
Why?
Is there a benefit to you?
Is it a benefit to me? Does it matter if they're white or blue or yellow?
I guess that you don't know that. Maybe you're stupid. Maybe you don't know what people think of you. It does matter, yeah. It matters.
Why does it matter? It doesn't matter at all. And then don't bring them to the claims. And so halfway around the world, meanwhile, here's the president having a news conference in Malaysia with the prime minister of Malaysia. And this question comes up to the president and President Obama talking about the ignorance displayed here but the idea that the president of the United States would comment on this at a state news conference, right, in Malaysia just shows you the impact and the power of the internet today. It certainly went viral and did not escape the president's attention.
Ignorant folks want to advertise their ignorance. You don't really have to do anything. You just let them talk. And that's what happened here.
That's what happened here. He certainly was broadcasting his ignorance the same way Cliven Bundy did last week in Nevada. And with that, we'll take a quick break, and I'll be back with today's parting shot about what should happen to Donald Sterling.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
And on this Monday, April 28, my parting shot for today, yes, rancher Cliven Bundy must have a big smile on his face today. He's not the only racist around. He's got company. L.A. Clippers owner Donald Sterling, as the whole world knows by now. In remarks allegedly made by him and captured on audio tape, Sterling berates a former girlfriend for hanging out with black basketball players and posting an Instagram photo of herself with Magic Johnson. It bothers me a lot that you want to broadcast that you're associating with black people. Do you have to? He asks on the tape. Now, Sterling denies the voice is his. The NBA and the Clippers are investigating. But the big question is, if it turns out that it was, in fact, Sterling who made those remarks, and nobody would be surprised if that's the case, then what should the players do? What should Sterling do? What should the fans do? And I think the answers are clear. Even though they're in the playoffs with Golden State, the Clippers players should refuse to play another game as long as Donald Sterling still owns the team. The NBA, which has a great reputation for diversity, should ban Sterling or any team he owns from the game. And the players, vote with your pocketbook. Just stay home and don't go to the Clippers games. That's the one way to really hurt this guy. You know, back to Nevada, the federal government bowed down to Cliven Bundy. Professional basketball must not bow down now to Donald Sterling and let him get away with those remarks. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Monday morning. Have a great Monday. Come back and see us Tuesday morning. And, of course, Tuesday with Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky and the president of the Steelworkers, Leo Gerard. Have a good one. See you tomorrow.
This is The Bill Press Show.